Hi all, it's Michelle from Cozy Egg, and this is episode 138. Today is Thursday, May 9th of 2024, and I'm glad to be back. I'm not sure where April went, and now we're into May, but here we are. So, I have several things to share with you today, whips and a new start, but definitely not as much as I had last time. At least it doesn't feel like as much as I had last time. So if you are new here, thank you for tuning in and checking me out, and hopefully you will find something that resonates with you and that you'll come back. So I did also want to thank everyone for their very kind comments on my last video. Thank you to those of you that, just reaffirmed to me that you really enjoy the vlog clips, you enjoy the way that I do my videos. I know it's a little out of the box from normal Flosstube videos, or should I say typical Flosstube videos. And so I really appreciate that feedback, and that there are those of you that really enjoy the content, enjoy the way that I do my videos, etc. So I enjoy doing it, so that is great. And I really also appreciate those of you that left comments about my whole work situation, and good thoughts and everything. I really appreciate that as well. Things have actually, I won't say normalized, but they've calmed down a little bit, and we're trying to kind of find, I'm trying to kind of find, like my new way. For the moment, I'm just sort of trying to, fly under the radar and do my job and my new job and somebody else's job. And just trying to, all the things. So, I'm just going to kind of take it one day at a time. We'll see how it goes, and what can I say? And I painted my nails for the first time in forever. And the polish that I used is OPI, and I think it's called Danny Loves Sandy Forever. And this was actually a gift from Emily, Eclectic Possessions, and so I always think of her when I wear it. But I chose this color because it's kind of a sparkly blue, and it reminded me of one of the main characters in these books that I'm reading, the Zodiac series, Zodiac Academy series. There's a character that has blue hair, and one of the other characters refers to her as Blue, so Blue. And here we are. Speaking of normal content, here's Tut. So, hi baby. Did you come to say hello? So, anyway. Obviously, since I saw you last, I think the last time I recorded was like on the spring equinox, and which was back in March. So since then, we had Easter, and we had the solar eclipse that we actually had full totality here where I am in Texas. It was actually on Eric and my 18-year anniversary. So I made a joke on my Invoking Beauty Instagram that, for our anniversary, he gave me roses and I ordered him up a solar eclipse. So, but we went out to the park that's right behind our house and set up our cameras, and he had ordered special lenses for us so that we could take photos of it. We had our glasses on and our lawn chairs and the whole shebang. So it was really nice to be able to go out, experience the eclipse, and it was really cool. It was really cool. Just watching the progression of it was really, really awesome. And when it got dark, it was interesting because we were out in the park, and so there's a ton of birds that are always out there, and they were doing their singing and making quite a bit of noise like they normally do during the day. And as soon as we hit like full totality and everything went dark, those birds stopped. Like, it was almost instantaneous. They just stopped and went completely quiet. It was so wild, so wild. But anyway, so it was a really cool experience. I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to do that. And trying to think if there's anything else momentous that has gone on. We've been having some health issues with Ramses, and so he actually went to the vet last week and was diagnosed with diabetes. So and he had quite a few other things that were going on, some of which are probably related to the diabetes, but it was kind of a domino effect. Like, things just kept kind of happening. And once one thing got off kilter, multiple things got off kilter. So we are treating him for that and giving him insulin injections twice a day. And hopefully he will be right as rain soon. So I know I don't talk about Ramses a ton because Tut is usually the one that is here in my videos, but you see lots of footage of Ramses in my video. Not that you could tell them apart, but because they're both black. But hopefully we will get him back on track, and he will be doing very well on this new regimen. So okay, I've looked over at this stack about 45 times now, so I guess let's just get started. And of course, the thing that I want to talk about first is on the bottom. So I'm going to shift a little bit. So I haven't had any finishes since the last time that I saw you, which, is to be expected for me. That's fine. But I did have a new start that I talked about in my last video, which was my start for the equinox, which was, and of course my thread ring is attached to my needle minder. So my new start was At Home by Brenda Gervais. And I had several people, say that they wanted to start this with me. So I did put a hashtag out there. I don't remember what it is, but it's on my Instagram post. I think it's something like At Home Spring Equinox Sal or something to that effect. Anyway, so this is the piece, and when she unveiled this at one of the country sampler retreats, I just absolutely fell in love with it, and I really wanted to stitch it this year because my word for the year is home. And so I got a start on this, and here are the threads. It calls for, these are all the called for threads. It calls for some overdyes, weeks and gentle arts, and some classic color works. and then some DMCs as well. So really pretty color palette. I love those bright turquoises in there. And I'm stitching this on the called for fabric, which is Vintage Country Mocha. I'm stitching it in 40 count. And so basically what I did was I just kind of got in a rhythm with the border, and so I just did the border all the way around. And that's, unfortunately, I had to rip out and restitch 2 of the sides. So I stitched the whole border and a half. So, but here it is. And, you know, it's not a huge piece on 40 count. And I did, once I got the border done, I did go ahead and start putting in some of those flowers because I wanted some color in there before I set it aside. So, but now that I have my border done, next time I get back to this, I can hopefully get some more color in there, get some more progress on it, and I'm looking forward to that and working on it over the next few months. So, and I did post a recent photo of it, like after I did the border on Instagram. My picture is crappy. A lot of my Instagram pictures have been crappy lately. And I will be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure why, because I will get it edited and the color will be correct for me. And the second that I hit, you know, post, it's like Instagram does something crazy with it. And then it's like, well, it's too late now. We're just leaving it. So thanks, Instagram. Okay, so I worked on that, and I probably worked on that, I don't know, a couple weeks, maybe? I'm a slow stitcher, so a couple weeks to stitch all of that and then rip half of it out and then just restitch all of that. So, and so then we were on to dark 13 stitching for the month. And so I decided to get out my greenhouse of oddities, which I haven't worked on, it feels like, in a little while. So I got that out, and this was a mystery sal from Lola Crow cross stitch, and she has done a few different mystery sals. She did, there was like a haunted library that I think she did the year before this one, and then the greenhouse of oddities, and then this year I think she's doing like the deadly aquarium, which just started. What is my hair doing? Which just started, and it looks really cool. So this isn't the whole thing, but this is just through part 4, but this is what it looks like. So it's got the greenhouse, and then, you know, plants, and there's butterflies and crows and an owl and all sorts of wondrous things. And one of the things that I love about this is that she gives you like the whole explanation of everything that she, you know, each plant, each animal, everything that appears in the greenhouse, so that you can see exactly, you know, what's in your greenhouse, which I think is really cool. It took a lot of research to do that, which is awesome. So, so I got this out, and I had been working on the first planting, which was the Desert Dwellers, and I managed to get that finished. So, and I'm stitching this on 40 count Boston by Seraphim. And it's kind of a chameleon color. In some lights it looks green, in some it looks blue, and some it looks gray. So it's actually kind of perfect for this stitch along. When I first got it, I was like, ooh, that's really blue. But the more that I stitch on it, the more I'm like, is it though? So here's where I'm at, and apologies for all of my random parked threads that I have everywhere. So my Q-snap, I'm only working within the confines of my Q-snap, which is why I have not finished these two areas, but I have the whole center portion complete, and then I've been working on the desert dwellers and managed to finish that up. So there's my little poison dart frog and my mole, and then I've been working on the cactus and the boojum tree, and then there's a little elf owl, and that is a crested cactus, crested saguaro. So love it, love it, love it. I'm so happy to have that done, and I was excited to have some green in this, some color in my greenhouse finally, other than just the black and dirt. So the next section that I have to do, I think, is like this plant and maybe this right here. So I'm excited about that. So I will get this out probably next week for Dark 13 stitching. So, because I think that's on Monday, maybe. So, and this calls for just, it calls for DMC, which I have in my thing, whatever this is. And then I've got more threads here, so they're kind of everywhere. And I was talking to somebody the other day, or several somebodies, about needle minders, and I was talking about my absolute favorite needle minders that I have, and they are from Amy Baruch. She made a set of these for me, and there were like 6 different ones. And so these are my favorite needle minders because they're small, they're very lightweight. This one has the moon on it. I have another one that has like an anatomical heart, and I think one has skeletons, and one has these 2 little bunnies in red dresses. I don't remember what the other ones have, but I absolutely love them. And so the front of it is like this wooden disc, so it's very lightweight. And then on the back of them, they have these antique buttons, and each one of them is different. And so sometimes I use them with the button on the front, and sometimes I use them with the wooden decorative piece on the front. So those are my absolute fave. I love them so much because, you know, with 40 count fabric, I just want, you know, something small. I don't want a big honkin' needle minder. Usually it kind of depends on the piece. Like I have some pieces that are on larger, that I keep on larger Q-snaps, that a larger needle minder is fine. But those are usually my favorite just because they're little. Anyway, and this is in my vintage Owl Lady bag, which glows in the dark, which I love. So All right, so I worked on that for, I guess I worked on that for a week maybe, for Dark 13 stitching. And what else have I been working on? So on Fridays, I am still doing my Fridays in Hawk Run Hollow. And if you are interested in joining in, you can, I mean, I'm working on shores, but you can work on any of the Hawk Run Hollows that you're interested in. And if you want to use the, you know, the post on Instagram, I've been using the hashtag, I think, Fridays in Hawk Run Hollow. And I also use the hashtag for, that is the same name as my Facebook group, which is Let's All Move to Hawk Run Hollow. So you can use either of those two hashtags if you want, or just go take a look if Instagram lets you see things. So anyway, so I've been working on shores and I'm still working on block 3, but I have completely finished the house, which I'm super excited about. That took a while, but I've completely finished the house. It's all filled in. Those windows are filled in as well. I love that peach door, that kind of apricot door. And this past Friday, I did the 2 bird baths. So there's a bird that sits on each one of these. So I'll do that this Friday. And then down at the bottom, well, I'll show you the block here in a minute, but I'm stitching this on 36 count Vintage Autumn Gold by Lakeside, which is the called for. And I'm stitching it with the called for NPI silks. And it's a lot of silks to buy, granted. I am just buying them 1 block at a time. So I figure it takes me long enough to stitch a block that it spreads out that cost a little bit. And, you know, obviously since you're reusing colors in each block, like for this block 3, I think I only had to buy 2 threads maybe. And one of those, it's because I don't think I could find mine. So let me find my pattern. So this is block 3. So once I get the 2 birds done on those bird baths, then I have the mermaid and the fish and the anchor and all this fill in to do with the grass and then all the water. So the whole rest of the block is filled in. Luckily, block 4 is not that intense, but this one is a doozy. So yeah, but I really love it. I love that mermaid. So I'm excited to get down to that and get that stitched. But yeah, this block is a lot. And I do try to post on Fridays in the Hawk Run Hollow, in my Hawk Run Hollow group, to encourage people to post their progress of whatever they're working on, whatever Hawk Run piece they're working on. I don't always do it because sometimes I get to stitching and I forget, but I do try. So if you are interested in joining us for Fridays in Hawk Run Hollow, please feel free. The ladies that I've been stitching with are working on block 2. And so I think in April, they were working on kind of this center part. So like the fish and the seahorse and these fish here. And then I think in May, they were going to try to get this done and finish this block. And then they'll move to this one. So if you're interested. So yeah, but I'm super happy that I'm making progress on this. And, you know, I only work on it on Fridays, which is fine because I'm able to get, you know, a pretty good amount of progress in, but I don't feel like I'm having to stitch on it. Like, it doesn't feel like a chore, and I'm not getting burnt out on it like I was previously. Now, part of that was extraneous circumstances, but I'm really enjoying working on this, and it feels very no pressure, low pressure, which is nice. So you're welcome to join us. All right. And then on Sunday nights, my friend Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts and I have been working on His Eyes on the Sparrow. So she started hers, I think, on Leap Day. And I told her, you know, if you start it, I will get mine back out. I started mine back in 2015. If you go back and you look at my very first Flosstube video, which I believe was in January of 2015, yes, I have been doing this 9 years. If you go back and look at that video, guess what I started on January 1st, 2015? Yeah, so it needs to be done. Okay, so here's where I'm at. And so this is the bottom right corner. And if you're familiar with it at all, like right here, this is where the words go, is right above this line. So I'm working on this bottom right-hand corner, and I wanted to basically like get everything to the right of the big tree done. And then I figure I'll do Adam and Eve and the big tree, and then I'll move to the right-hand side. I am leaving the words until last. I have charted out what I want to put in there, but I just figured I'd do it last after I get everything else done. So, because I'm gonna have to keep moving my Q-snap. So, I told you last time that I replaced that dumb looking Scooby-Doo dog with the Sparrow, and I'm very happy with how he turned out. And I've been sort of working my way upwards. So I did the Sparrow and this, and I think you saw that last time. And I had worked on the bee scap, and you can just barely see these little bees that are up here. And then I worked on the angel, and this plant, did this big star, the little owl, and right now I'm working on this. So that's where I'm at. And so the tree, like, you know, I think Eve sits kind of right here. And so I'm sort of working my way around where the tree is going to fill in. So, and I'm stitching this with the called for overdyed threads on 48 count Gonder linen that was overdyed. And so because it's 48 count, is making my colors really saturated, which I love. And my photos of this are craptastic as well on Instagram for previously stated reasons. Might be user error, might be Instagram, who knows. But it has been super fun to get this out and to work on it with Olivia. And, you know, we work on it on Sundays, and then, you know, on Monday morning, it's fun to, you know, send her my progress photo and, you know, have her send me her progress photo, and just kind of see where we're at, which is really cool. I'm very much enjoying that. So after I put my greenhouse of oddities away, and so like those two pieces, like I work on shores on Fridays. I don't stitch on Saturdays because we have family dinner night on Saturdays. And then on Sundays, I work on Sparrow. And so it's like Monday through Thursday, I'm stitching on other things. So I, you know, worked on my at home, And then for Dark 13 stitching, I worked on my Greenhouse of Oddities for that week. And so then last week, and I guess this week, I picked up something else to work on. And I'm kind of trying to, I guess I'm trying to kind of look at what I've started recently and sort of work my way, you know, focus on those things that I've recently started. I wasn't feeling working on Janet Reed. So I decided to get out my Rebecca Nurse piece, which is by Primitive Hair. And let's see if I can get this chart out of here, because the chart is actually slightly bigger than my zipper on this project bag. So this is Rebecca Nurse by the Primitive Hair, and this is Rebecca Nurse's Homestead. And Rebecca Nurse was one of the victims of the Salem witch trials. So several of us decided that we wanted to stitch this. So I think we started it back in February, like February 20th-ish, something like that. And it just calls for like about 5 colors of DMC. This is really attractive, I realize, but it just calls for about 5 colors of DMC. And the called for fabric is also Vintage Country Mocha. And so that's what I'm stitching it on. She actually calls for a 32 count. I'm stitching it on 40, of course, because always that's my preferred. So, oh, come on. Okay, thank you. So I've been working on, and I've got parked threads on this too. So I've been working on the house. And so since I picked it up, I was able to finish this side of the house. I have stitched this whole side of the house, the chimney, and I am working on the roof. So all of the rest of this gets filled in with snow. And then I do have to do some back stitching to do the sashing on the windows. So I need to go back in and do that. And then the house is done once I get the snow filled in. And then I'm going to start on the trees that are on either side of the house. So I've got my thread parked here for this. And then my thread for the other side is parked over here. So yeah, but I'm quite pleased with how this is looking and I'm enjoying working on it. It's not a very big piece. You know, I think it's only going to be about, 5 by 7, 4 by 6-ish, something like that on 40 count. So, but it's a lot of filling. It's a lot of stitching. All that snow at the bottom. So, but I've really been enjoying working on that last week and this week, and that has been nice. I haven't had a ton of stitching time, and I will explain why. 2 reasons. So the first reason is that I am working very hard to finish charting a sampler that I am reproducing. And I'm trying to get the charting done so that I can get started on the stitching because I want to get that released this summer. So I need to get a move on. So I've been, in the evenings, I've been doing a lot of charting. And so I don't tend to get to my stitching until like 9 or 10 o'clock. And yeah. So I'm not making a ton of progress on my stitching, but that's okay. So, and once I get that charted, and I start, working on the stitching on that, I'm about halfway through charting the next tombstone. So if you are interested in that, there is another one coming. I've got about half of it charted. I just need to do the other half of it, and then hopefully I can get that released soon too. So the other thing that has been putting a little bit of a slowdown on my stitching is I watched Amy Gable Stitcher. I watched one of her videos. I was playing catch up, so I think I watched like her last 3 videos, like within a couple of days of each other. But at the end of last year, she finished her oldest whip that was about to turn 21. And so she kept saying, I want to finish this before it can drink. So she, really focused on doing that and managed to get it done. And it occurred to me that my oldest whip is from 2004, which makes it 20 this year. So I decided maybe I need to get this out and get it done. But you're about to see why this is my oldest whip. So this is the piece. It's called Dorothy's Garden, and it is by a Stitcher's Hands, who I do not believe is designing anymore. But here's the piece. Now, the photo is flipped for some reason, so if you're seeing that the alphabet and everything is backwards, you're not imagining things. The photo is actually flipped for some reason. But that's the piece. And this designer is actually local to me. And so when I first saw this piece, like the model for this was in my local needle workshop, which sadly is no more. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to stitch this. I have to. And her models are always over 1. Like the whole thing is over 1. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. And so the model was stitched on 32 count over 1. So I said, great, I will stitch mine also 32 count over 1. Now I was a relatively new linen stitcher when I decided to undertake this. And so I basically said, give me some 32 count and let's go to town. And here we are 20 years later. It's a real beauty, and I apologize for the fold lines, but it's been in a bag for 20 years. So here's where it is. So when I picked it up, I decided that I was just going to focus on the house, because that's what I was currently working on. And so I pulled this gray, and that is the only thread that I pulled. And I decided I'm going to do 1 length of thread a day and just see if I can make some progress on this, because being over 1 on 32 count, this is not a whole lot of fun to stitch, honestly. And a length of thread goes a long, long way. So it takes me a while to get through 1 length of thread. So that is the other thing that is keeping me from getting to some of my other stitching earlier in the evening. But so what I have done since I picked this up, I had started like where I left this. I think I had this one column done, this side thing. I had, kind of worked my way over here, and I had started to come up here, and that was it. So I've since done all of this. I did all this inside. I came over here and did this, worked my way all the way across here, did this column, and now I'm working on outlining the door. So I've made a good bit of progress, I think. Enough that I actually feel like I've made progress. Now, all of that still has to be filled in with white. But I'm just focusing on the gray right now. That's all I'm doing. So I'm going to finish that door and then of course do the 2 columns over here and then that little side bit. And I think there's another chimney that I have to do. So I'm just going to, kind of stick with this gray until I run out of things to stitch with this gray. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But I figured this house has been the piece that has held me up for so long because it's a huge white house over one. So I figured if I can get the house done, then maybe it will give me some momentum and then I can go and do all of the fun, colorful things that, like the border and, all of the butterflies and all that. Maybe. We'll see. So that's the plan anyway, but I would like to have this done before it turns 21, so I'd like to have it done this year. 2004. So to recap, I have a 2004 whip that I'm working on. I have my 2015 Sparrow whip that I'm working on. And I believe that I started Shores in 2009. So I would like these done and off my plate, but once that model is ready to be stitched, all bets are off. Like, I'm basically gonna have to put everything aside and work on that. I may continue to work on Sparrow and Shores one night a week, but the model has to take precedence. So that's where we're at. Okay, so that is all of the stuff that I have been working on. So plans, like I said, I'd love to continue working on At Home. I'd love to continue to work on Greenhouse of Oddities. I'll work on Rebecca Nurse tonight, and then tomorrow Shores and Sunday Sparrow. And then once I get my fabric and threads and everything gathered together, I'm going to start on that model and try to get it stitched and done. And like I've done with my other models, I will, share my progress as I go. It takes me so long to stitch a model that I don't really feel like I can, stitch it in secret and then reveal it, because otherwise you would not hear from me for a very long time. So that's the way that goes. It's fine. So, yep, so those are my plans. And then I figured I would talk a little bit about books. So if you are not interested in books, feel free to adjourn or just keep stitching and enjoy. So what have I read since the last time I talked to you at the end of March? So the first thing that I read was Iron Flame. So I had read Fourth Wing earlier this year, and as soon as I finished it, I immediately put a hold on Iron Flame, and my number finally came up. So I quick read Iron Flame. I mean, I ripped through that book in like 3 days. It was so good. So good. So good. Like, I immediately just wanted to like reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame again as soon as I finished Iron Flame. It was so good. So if you have not read those books, stop what you're doing right this minute and go read them, because they're so good. So good. So I read Iron Flame, and then I think I mentioned that I am doing a buddy read this year with 2 friends of mine, and we are reading the Zodiac Academy books. So we started with the prequels, and there were 5 of those, and we had finished those up. Like, I finished the last one of those right before I read Iron Flame. So finished those, and then after we read Iron Flame, then I went on to start the Zodiac Academy proper. And I'm currently reading book 5. So there was like a 0.5. So like after the prequels, there was like another prequel to the story. So we read that, which was like a novella. We read book 1, and then there was a book 1.5, which was basically the same story, but from a different point of view. And then we read books 2, 3, and 4, and 4 ended on a horrible cliffhanger. And so I, of course, immediately had to start book 5. So I'm currently reading book 5, but one of my holds from the library just came in, so I'm going to need to speed this up so I can read that. So in between reading the Zodiac Academy books, I've taken a few little breaks to allow my friends to kind of catch up. And so the first thing I read was Fangirl by Tessa Bailey. I love me some Tessa Bailey, and Fangirl is one of her newer books that just came out. And so I put a hold on that at the library, and it came in, and it's just a very sweet, spicy romance novel, contemporary romance. It was fun. It was really good. I enjoyed it. And then I also read a book called Raiders of the Lost Heart, and that had been recommended by Julie, Kansas City girl. She mentioned it, and I was like, romance book, archaeologists, sold. So I read that, and that was really good as well. There were a few things that I was like, I don't know, but it spoke to that absolute love of archaeology and history and Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Mummy and all of those sorts of things that make my heart go pitter patter. So not to mention the romance. So that was really good. I enjoyed that. That's by Joe Seguro. And then I needed to read my next book for the Sampler Guild of the Rockies book club. And that book was called The Secret Lives of Dresses by Erin McKean. And I'll be honest with you, I kept putting this off. I was like, because I, for some reason, thought that this was going to be another, World War centric kind of story for some reason, but it wasn't at all. And it was so good. Like, I kept thinking about it, like, after I finished it. It was really good. So I highly recommend it. I could not find it at my library, any of my libraries. So I did end up purchasing it on Kindle, but it was really good. And it's basically about a woman that is in college, working on her undergraduate, but she doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. And so she's sort of, floating. And her grandmother, who basically raised her, owns and runs a vintage clothing store. And she, has a stroke. And so the granddaughter, comes home to kind of take care of her, take care of the shop, etc. And it's really, really great. She finds out that the grandmother had, written these stories about the dresses that she sells, like about the lives that they've, had before. And when customers come in, they get these little stories to go with the dress, which, was really cool. So anyway, it was a very good book. I highly recommend it. There's a little romance in there as well. No spice. It's a very, very good book. So highly recommend. And so that's everything that I've read. And all of them have been ebooks. So nothing physical I can show you. I was actually planning on trying to read one of the physical books that's on my shelf as part of that challenge that I've given myself. I was going to read it after I finished book 4 of Zodiac Academy, but then after that cliffhanger, I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to have to go ahead and read this next book. And now that I have a hold at the library that came in, I'm going to have to. So this is what happens to me. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. So, like I said, not too much else going on. And it already feels like summer here in Texas. But we have been having kind of our normal spring storms that go on, which makes for, interesting weather. But it's already super warm, so there's that. But we are, trying to just, take each day as it comes and be grateful for it and, do our own thing. So, all right, well, that's enough rambling. So, and luckily this video is not as long as the last two. So, but thank you again for joining. Thank you for all of your comments and your likes and subscribes and mentions on, Instagram or on your videos, etc. I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate your feedback on my videos and telling me how much you like them and you enjoy the vlog clips and, all that good stuff. So thank you. And yeah, that's it. So thank you and happy stitching. Bye.